TikTok, time to rock. Welcome to the Sunday show, folks. We're only 10 minutes late. That's not bad, Brad.
Pretty
That's
good
not
going.
bad.
That's not bad. We're getting tidier. We're getting closer.
We won't blame anybody. We won't blame because we're having a good chat there. It was a collective behind the scenes chat we were having, wasn't it, Simon?
I was, yeah. Well, we always got something useful to discuss, haven't we? As a collective.
Sometimes not so useful,
collective.
but we still discuss it.
Oh, look at that rookie error. Yeah, some things are left in the green room to be discussed. Some things we can discuss out here.
Simon, I think a lot of things are left in the green room and they're not suitable for the show.
See, John said D301 wasn't expecting this to start already. See, we just thought we'd frighten you, John, by sneaking up on you.
Awesome. We're going to do a shout out soon to all you fine folks in the chat. We always appreciate you jumping on weekly with us. There's a couple of things that we want to do before we sort of start the show proper. Otherwise, we'll just drag the show on, Brad. So I've been given the task of, on behalf of the channel, we enjoy doing this twice a year on the 22nd of April. The 25th of April in this part of the world. It's an important day. And for the people in the UK and North America, Remembrance Day is a big day for a lot of people. To all the soldiers, sailors, airmen and airwomen who've given their lives in the pursuit of freedom in all the wars and who continue to serve today, protecting us. I mean this sincerely when I say this, but we salute you. Thank you for your sacrifice and for your service.
Well said. Well said, Andrew. Well said.
We will remember them.
Yes, lest we forget.
Awesome. Thank you, bro. Brad, you've got the next shout out. We did something we don't often do, the three of us, during the midweek. So we got together, we discussed a great song, and a couple of things have developed as an outcome of the 3 or 4 days since. Do you want to let people know what that good news is, bro?
Well, I'm guessing it's because we actually did a little bit of a discussion on the actual song itself that it's hit number one around the world. Okay,
good,
I think it's
work.
all on our shoulders, guys. It's all on our shoulders.
Look what we did,
guys. The Beatles Now and Then release is number one around the world, and it's breaking records. So, what can I say? Well done. It's unbelievable that, it just goes to show, and I've had this discussion point with people in the past and very recently as well. Beatles were, in my opinion, the greatest band, to walk the face of the earth. And I think, how grateful are we to have got, the ability to sit here and listen to their music and hear a contemporary release from the Beatles 50, 60 years later. It's amazing. It's unbelievable. So, well done to all involved there. But, John Lennon, Paul McCartney, Ringo and George Harrison, well done. We love your music and we love the fact that the Beatles are still relevant today. And I think, guys, I mentioned this before on Wednesday when we did the show. I think the Beatles will be relevant in 200 years. They'll still be relevant. Some of the greatest songs ever written.
Yeah.
I mean, I was listening to on Spotify the Blue album and the Red album, and it's just incredible. Some of the material you know, when you put an album together, like a double record of like hits and everything like that, it's just amazing. It's just a bam, 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 bam. It's incredible. So well done, Beatles. Well done.
That's
Yeah.
true, yeah.
Yeah. Before Simon offers a bit of a comment on what you just said, I'm just going to jump in and say, mate, the Beatles are going to be relevant to the end of time.
I think, you know, you've got certain pivotal points in musical history that will always be remembered, and I think the Beatles are going to be, you know, remembered for a long time to come. Very long time to come. Forever.
Yeah. Oh, greatest band ever, surely.
Yes, but there's also another greatest band ever, which we're doing a show on today. So
that's what Greg Zeppelin just said. Yeah, Brad, how can you say that when reviewing an album by the actual greatest band of all time?
It's whatever band we're doing during the rankings.
This week's greatest band of all time is Led Zeppelin. Wednesdays was the Beatles.
Led Zeppelin. Maybe I have a number of greatest bands of all time in my brain.
Mikey Mojo. Mikey Mojo. Morning, Mikey Mojo. How you doing? Hope you're good.
Yeah, Mikey.
Hey, Mike.
Up late.
Good to see you, bro.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Well, I think it's fantastic that the Beatles have got a #1 single, and the Rolling Stones have had a #1 album around the world as well. The oldsters are doing it, you know, absolutely cracking it and nailing it. And I think that's fantastic, isn't it? You know, pop music is no longer for the young.
You wouldn't want to be releasing a single right now at the moment, would you? You'd be holding it back until later.
You would be holding it back till later. Imagine that. Imagine that. We can't release it this week. The Beatles are releasing a single this week. Welcome to 1969. Yes.
Yeah, clearly that happened, and I think obviously this was done around Hackney Diamonds, and this single too was there was some kind of collaboration with them as far as release dates go, and that's nothing new because they were doing that right from the start, weren't they? You know, the Rolling Stones actually were holding back their releases until after the Beatles had released a few of their albums. You know, because they were smart enough to know, well, you got to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah.
And what other shout-outs we were discussing back in the green room there, Simon? Do you remember? I can't remember.
Oh, what? Some other things.
Yes.
Yeah, you got to shout out.
Oh, I've got a shout out. I'm going to shout out to Teresa Maria de Souza, who's I've had a message from this week, and she's working and sadly can't catch the show live anymore, though she's still watching the replay. So I said we'd give her a shout out. So good morning, Teresa. I hope you're well. I hope it's all going fine. And she sends her love to everyone in the chat as well. So particularly I pass that on. So there we are. That's passing it on. So we hope you're good, Teresa. And and congratulations. And so in other news this week, I did a slightly crazy thing this week, which I bought tickets for. You can see this. I get closer.
Hold on, bro. Hold on, Simon. Yep.
There we are. Is it going to do it? Oh, it's come out a bit.
You might have to decipher it for the blind.
For the blind, yeah, for the blind. Well, I bought 2 tickets to go and see Bruce Springsteen.
Oh wow!
In Cardiff next year. It's the I don't know. I'll see if I can. Hold on, not that one. And I'll show you how much they cost. Can you see that?
£584, was it?
Yes, £584 for 2 tickets.
$100 New Zealand. That's a grand Aussie.
Yeah.
Well,
$1,000. I'm going to the $1,000 gig.
Is that for 2 tickets? Was it, Simon?
That's 2 tickets. Yeah.
Well, Paul McCartney was more than that.
Was it? Yeah.
Here in Australia, for what I got.
Rip.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Taylor Swift. Yeah. Yes, Gretchen. Taylor Swift. That's terrible. It's not focusing. Oh, well. Yeah,
Gretch knows who's really seeing. Good on you, Gretch.
Yeah.
You worked that out.
yeah. It's not focusing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to see in Cardiff, which is just over the bridge from me. It's not 40 miles away, 30 miles away, so it's close.
Isn't that
So, yes.
another country?
It is. It is in Wales, home of my ancestors. I'm having you. I'll tell you now, boy. Home of my ancestors. With a name like Williams, where do you think I bloody come from?
love that Welsh accent. I've worked with Welsh guys over the years.
That's
my
me.
gosh. Oh my
Yes.
Lord. Terrible guys to socialise with. Terrible troublemakers.
Terrible.
Oh my Lord. Oh, the shit I got into with them. Oh my Lord.
I have a famous Welsh ancestor who, if you look him up on the internet, his epitaph that I found was poet, revolutionary, drugger, forger.
Yeah,
what do you think about that for an epitaph, eh? That's DC.
That sounds about right, Brad.
We can only dream of having an epitaph like that.
And he wasn't a rock and roller.
No.
Yeah.
Well, it clearly was a rock and roller because Yolo Morganog was clearly a rock and roller because you don't get a poet, revolutionary, forger, drug addict epitaph for nothing, do you? But a laudanum boy, apparently. That's very good for you.
Awesome. Rock Professor, we've got 15 people watching us, so you know what that means?
Oh, look. It means shout out time. Yay! Let's go.
If you can do the beginning shout out, and Brad, the backdoor man, can do the final kaput shout out.
Kaput one. Yeah. I'll put it to bed. I'll put everyone to bed.
Take it out and shoot it. Yes. Take it out and put it out of its misery.
That's right.
Yeah. So good morning to Ellen. Good morning, Ellen, as ever. Gretch Zeppelin, morning, Gretch. I've got who else has commented? John ZD351. Great work with the cover this week, John. Putting us all in and various
hold
objects.
On, folks. While the Rock Professor's on that, just hold that shout out. I'll just drop us out so people can see the wonderful art.
Careful with that axe, Eugene. Stop that now. Oh dear.
Oh my goodness. I don't know what to say about that one, John. I think you've outdone yourself.
That's good. That's one way of putting it, yes.
I don't know. I don't know.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Anyway, it's fantastic. Jeez. So good morning to Holly Lewis. Morning, Holly, from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Fantastic. Johnny Heartbreaker. Morning, Johnny. Hope you're well. Good to see you. Mikey Mojo. Thanks for dropping by, Mikey. Nice to see you too. Arvin as well. Arvin, good morning, Arvin. Hope you're well. I think that's talk about Achilles' last stand. Nice one, Gretch.
I know. I get it. I got it.
Oh dear God. Yeah. Yes. What is this under the bus? Yes, it is. Yes. Straying into territory we shouldn't stray into. So that's everyone who's made comments. I think hopefully I got everyone. So morning all. Lovely to see you. And I hope we're all good.
Fine.
Yes.
And now on with the show.
On with the show.
On with the show, boys. On with the show. So this week, gentlemen, I decided an all-time Zeppelin classic. The Presence album there that Simon's just received in the mail. And he's holding up the real cover for it, not the one that John ZD351 did. and there's a
frankly,
there's a theme that runs in all the photos, and I'll talk about it in a second. But it's an object, and there's a reason why put that object in each picture.
Mm.
So it's a wonderful album, gentlemen. I thank you for letting me pick it this week, because I know, Simon, you were going to pick this one. Was it you, Simon? Or
Yes,
I
yes.
think
I'm not thankful. I was thinking of doing it myself, but there we
I
are.
think
Usurped.
well, that's what you get for copying my notes. All right, that's what you.
Yes, right. That's 2 weeks in a row, because the week before I was going to do, when I was my last match, I was going to do the Rolling Stones, and Andrew's like, we're doing a Hackney Diamonds, or better not choose another Rolling Stones on the week before that, and I.
Oh my goodness, Andrew, we're in trouble, mate. He's worked it out. He knows
Constantly usurped.
He knows
But that's
we've got
okay.
all of his files, and we know what albums he's going to pick, so we keep picking them before him.
You've done my Google Docs.
That's
broken
right.
into it and see what I'm doing.
Right. So Led Zeppelin Presence album, gentlemen, which is 7th album that they released, and it came out on the 31st of March 1976 on their Swan Song Records label. Ended the previous tour, 1975. Zeppelin wrapped up an exhaustive North American tour in March 75. They were marred by challenges like Robert Plant's vocal strain and exhaustion. Some of the players in the band were showing signs after 3.5 hours of playing that they were exhausted. And so that was one thing that was happening at the time just prior to recording this album. Another thing, they had to exile for tax purposes. So they were escaping mounting tax issues in the UK. The band chosen a self-imposed exile in Munich. They moved to Munich, Germany, for both financial relief and as a fertile ground to create endeavors, including the forthcoming Presence album. There was a trip to Morocco, which is one thing that was very pivotal and an important part in their careers, especially for Jimmy Page and Robert Plant moving forward. They actually went back to Morocco and they collaborated in the 90s, in 94, 95, whatever it was. But they went to Morocco seeking fresh inspiration. Jimmy Page and Robert Plant embarked on a journey to Morocco. The diverse cultural experiences and the musical influences they encountered became crucial to shaping this album. Songs derived, there was a lot of song ideas for this album that derived from extended jams that were happening and through their live performances. Obviously, a lot of initial spark for ideas anyway. So they would be jamming, for example, in the middle of Dazed and Confused, and they would jam on the start of Achilles' Last Stand, or they'd break into something, in the what's the song called? The Crunge, and they used to do bits and pieces of some of these songs. And I could be wrong with the actual song titles, but that they were jamming on. But they were derived from those jams, which, is an important part to what we're getting to with this record. A very pivotal moment happened. Robert Plant's family car crashed in August 75. While Robert Plant and his family, including his wife, Maureen, his daughter, his children, and Jimmy Page's daughter, Scarlett Page, were traveling in Rhodes, Greece, and they experienced a severe car crash. So severe that Robert Plant's wife suffered a fractured skull, and it profoundly affected Robert Plant moving forward. I think he broke his wrist and his ankle. So that meant that, moving forward, when they went to record this album, they started to record the album in because they couldn't tour. They decided they wouldn't be able to tour, obviously, because of Robert Plant's health issues. So while he's recovering, they decided to put out an album, because they're at the peak at this time, guys, of their career. They were really at the peak of their career. So obviously, determined to contribute despite his injuries, Plant, confined to a wheelchair, recorded many of his vocals for Presence in the seat of a wheelchair. This unconventional approach added to a layer of emotional intensity to the album. So he was frustrated during this time that he couldn't just get up and do the things he wanted to do. He's really struggling. There's another reason too. They had to get Robert Plant out of the U. Well, it's a big long story, but I'm not sure I can shorten it. But what they did is they flew. Richard Cole flew everyone involved in the accident. Maureen is Robert Plant's wife, the kids, and Robert Plant back to the UK, and they had to get Robert Plant out of the UK to avoid the time he was allowed to be in the UK, to avoid the heavy taxes on his income. So he had to leave his wife and get out of the UK. I hope I haven't confused people, because it's very confusing unless you've really read the finer details of this without sort of me trying to cut it down into point form. Studio time at Musicland Studios. They recorded at Musicland Studios, and they utilised cutting edge facilities there, allowed them to experiment and achieve raw, energetic sounds that they were envisioning in their head. Jimmy Page was facing time constraints when they were recording the album. Reportedly, they needed one more day in the studio to finish off recording, and reportedly Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones were meant to be recording in the studio the following day. So Jimmy Page contacted Mick Jagger and asked if they could pinch one day out of their recording session, their booking, and they obliged. And I believe the Stones were booked in to record Black and Blue album. I think that was the one they were going for. The session, was heavily led by Jimmy Page. The band engaged in some marathon recording sessions. Jimmy often worked late into the night. This dedication to perfection and experimentation to find the crafting of each track on this record. The contributions of John Paul Jones and John Bonham. Plant was absent during some of the recording phases because of his recovery. Drummer John Bonham and John Paul Jones played integral roles in shaping together these song ideas that Robert Plant and Jimmy Page had put together in the downtime after his accident in preparation for this record. The engineer for the album was Keith Harwood. He worked closely with the band. He was close with Jimmy Page at this point in time, and he contributes heavy to the production quality and capturing that unique Zeppelin sound on this record, which is one of the best sounding Zeppelin records in my opinion. It's just an incredible sounding album. The recording sessions of Presence were notably extended. It's a testament to the band's commitment to achieving their desired musical vision, despite the numerous challenges that they'll face during the production. The album artwork, the symbolic object that you see in all the photos. The album cover featured a mysterious and black obelisk object. And basically that object represented the intensity of energy surrounding the band at the time, because no matter what they did or whatever they were trying to do, they had all these things over their head, like the exiling from the UK, the accident. There was a number of things and reasons why this became that way. But you've also got to understand that Robert Plant was going through a lot of personal pain and heartache because he was separated from his family at that time as well. The creation of Presence emerges as a narrative marked by tragedy, resilience, and creative commitment. The album, born from the events that were making this album so tense, and stands as a testament to Led Zeppelin enduring for their legacy and their ability to channel adversity into timeless music. Guys, you got anything you want to add to this? Simon or Andrew?
No, I think that's a fantastic intro. all the info is there, team.
Yeah, I think it's there.
Yeah.
You know, obviously we're going to talk a little bit more about this album when we go around, folks, and talk about our experiences on hearing this album. But I think Brad's nailed it, hit the ball out of the park. And again, you know, folks in the chat there's a few of you there in the chat. Let us know how you came across this album. I suppose this is probably the best time now to ask Brad how he came across this album. And then the Rock Professor, if you want to do your contribution, I'll quickly come in with mine and we'll kick the rankings off. How does that sound?
Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thanks for the praise on that intro. I tried to make it as flowing as possible because there's a lot of disjointed things that led to the creation of this album. But for me, I just discovered this through progression of listening to their albums. I was listening to the first two records, Houses of the Holy. I went out and bought then Physical Graffiti presents In Through the Outdoor, bought them all at once on CD. And I'd heard Achilles' Last Stand. I'd heard Nobody's Fault But Mine. But then I actually went through and listened to the record, and it slowly became, Luke Foley, yes, John, that one was part of that. From initially, his brother introduced me to Zeppelin, and he did. So, like, I was really not aware of them until then. So, it slowly became my favorite record because of the intense energy of the record, the sound quality. I think it's one of the greatest sounding Zeppelin records that they did. I love the guitar tone. I love the drum sound, and the bass sound is just phenomenal. And Robert's vocal in this album is incredible. I know everything he does is incredible in the Zeppelin days, especially, but this album in particular, he's really pouring his heart into this record. You can really tell. So, Simon, how about you?
Well, coming off the back of my seeing them in 1975 at Earl's Court, it's big news, and so in my world it was it was a big release, and of course we got it when it came out, and I've had it. I don't know what happened to it. I don't remember ever getting rid of the vinyl copy of it, but I discovered the other day I didn't have a vinyl copy, which is why I rebought it. But so bought it then, and I think then we were amazed at about sort of the word guitar orchestration was I think bandied about when it came out, and I think that's probably true. I think Page is moving into that area, and we've done later albums where that's been Outrider and the stuff with David Coverdale that clearly takes that on. But this is the beginning of that. I think of Page's exploration into that, and that kind of moving it on a bit from the straightforward blues stuff of the and interesting into different different areas and things. But so yeah, I've had it been around since it came out, and been a great record. It's I mean, it took a bit of time to get into, I think, because it was different. It felt different. The sound was different. Took a bit of time to sort of get into, but it's all there if you can reward yourself by listening to it a few times. Still all the classic Zeppelin bits are there. Things. So yeah, I've had it since it came out, really. So
yeah,
Andrew.
Yeah, I'm going to steal a couple of ideas from the Rock Professor and from Johnny Heartbreaker in the chat. Presence was the last album he listened to from Zeppelin. It was mine too. For a lot of reasons. It was an album that was never recommended to me, Simon and Brad, by other Led Zeppelin fans, because they were recommending everything else, so when you went into the record store, you always saw this album, Brad, with this funny cover. And because nobody was recommending it and the funny cover, it was like, okay, so this must be just one of those funny albums. So, it would have been through listening to it on somebody else's device, whether it was a cassette tape, I can't quite remember, or someone else's record. But when I first heard it, I knew there was enough on there, Simon, to go, wow, I needed to go and grab my own copy of this album. But as I've said to you guys before with Led Zeppelin, when you listen to Led Zeppelin the first time, a lot of us don't always get it. You know, you're hearing something really cool. There's a couple of tracks that, like, rockers that might stand out, but there's other tracks you don't quite get it, you know, because you know that this is serious growing up rock and roll. And I think that's like the icing on the cake for a lot of us. It's like if you go and get this album and put the dedication and devotion and time into sitting and listening to it, Simon, you're going to pick up some clues, and you do on a couple of songs. So they don't surprise us with you know, on this track. But like Brad said before we kick it off proper, it's got to a stage now where it's one of my favorite albums. You know, it's just a great album in the context of what it is as an album in its own period of time. And I just want to back up what Brad said. You got to remember, in 1975 there was no band bigger in the world, Simon, than Led Zeppelin. So having this car accident and this band being dedicated, Brad, to go back and do this album just goes and shows how important music was to them, bro, and how important they saw themselves as beacons and continuers of rock and roll in 1975. They took this job seriously.
Yes.
Yeah,
They did, actually. Very much so. You know, very much so.
You have to say, don't you, that you know, Led Zeppelin, from Led Zeppelin in 1969 to Presence in 1976, that is a run of albums, isn't it? I mean, that really is, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, House of the Holy, Physical Graffiti, and Presence. That's a run of albums, you know. You could put that up against anybody else's first 7 albums.
Well, you've got the Stones, and you've got the Beatles.
Well, yeah. But it's right up there, isn't it, in terms of quality and in terms of, you know,
what a run.
Influence. Yeah, what a run. Yeah. It's
what a run.
What a run.
What a band.
What a band.
An album a year, basically. It's not quite that, but 7 albums in 7 years. It's a, you know, it's a.
Thanks,
and
Alan.
of that quality is amazing. I think truly amazing.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. But I also think that it's the last. Presence is the last album. If you think about it, you know, Presence is released, but also in 1976, the Damned released New Rose, and there was the punk thing, certainly in the UK, that was really big. And I think that you know, Led Zeppelin didn't do anything for 3 years. Into the Outdoors, the next album. By that time, in England, in the UK, the musical zeitgeist had shifted completely to something else entirely. And Into the Outdoor was much more out of time, I think, than Presence probably was. Presence was the tail end of that, but you know, it was a new moon rising, and a new kind of music thing going on in the UK, which kind of made a difference, I think. But they kind of embraced it, Zeppelin. They didn't. I know, you know, Plant and Page used to go to see the Damned play and stuff like that. So it's kind of, you know, still interested to see what was going on, new stuff and things. I guess they saw quite a lot of 60s parallels in that, as having lived through it. But yeah, I would say their last great record. But
yeah, look, they're all great records in my eyes for the particular point in time for the band. I think what they were capable of doing at the time, but to fuse this one together out of such a sort of tense and dramatic sort of period in the band's career, when they were at the top of their game, they did an amazing job. So a testament to each member of the band, you know, especially Robert Plant and Jimmy Page, you know, really taking the reins as per usual and driving this thing home to get it done. You know, one thing I didn't mention in the intro there, guys, is all these songs were rehearsed up and done within a 3-week period. So these songs weren't necessarily complete pieces of work when they went into the rehearsal space. So it took John Bonham and John Paul Jones to really put their heads down and just get these songs done. And as you know, the songs there's a lot of complex things going on in these songs. So they did an amazing job in 3 weeks. Let's be honest. Most bands they'd record an album like this for a year or more. You know what I mean? It's incredible. So, guys, you guys ready to rank the tracks?
Yep.
I think we should get into it. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So, yes, well, the grandeur of Achilles' Last Stand lies in its meticulous construction and the virtuosity of each band member. The title alludes to a Greek myth of Achilles, a hero facing the final battle. The lyrics convey a sense of resilience, endurance, and determination in the face of adversity. The theme of the song aligns with the broader context of Led Zeppelin's journey during this period. Jimmy Page, this is his masterpiece, in my opinion. There's layers of guitar here. The intro itself has got a 12-string and a 6-string there. I think he uses his double neck 12-string and a 6-string for the intro. And I think there's a phase 90 pedal or something similar going on there. Sounds incredible. It builds like a prelude to the song. It's got a lot of tension. The chords that he's playing together create tension and dissonance. And then the explosive entrance when John Bonham hits that snare, they come in, and what I describe as a gallop. I think, Iron Maiden, a lot of metal bands
made a career out of it. Yes,
we're heavily influenced from this song, and there's basically from that point on, it unleashes like the force of the band. Their musical chemistry is just second to none here. We're trying to put it in context. They rehearsed these songs and recorded them in a 3-week period. John Bonham's drumming with his distinctive kick snare pattern and the intricate hi-hat, the way he plays propels the song forward, creating like that gallop feel that I explained. John Paul Jones wielding an 8-string bass, with precision. He adds punchlines to the musical narrative, and Robert Plant's vocals adopting like a storytelling mode, conveying incredible lyrics and captivating like the listeners, like us. There's parts of Robert's vocals in the song that are haunting. The parts where it's, those bits and everything. It's just incredible. It's hard to believe he's in a wheelchair while he's recording these songs. It's very hard to put it into context. The lyrics are leaning on what happened to them a little bit as well. At the time, like it was an April morning when they told us we should go, meaning they had to exile and leave the UK. They're very autobiographical for this period in time, and this song is got the tension and everything that was surrounding this time frame for the band. The song's climax, marked by one of the greatest drum fills in history at 1:16, is a testament to Bonham's unparalleled drumming skills. There's a subsequent sort of scale progression that is doubled by John Paul Jones on the bass with the guitar. At first, John Paul Jones was not really on board with it, saying, I don't think a scale is going to work in that form. And Jimmy Cage just said, just trust me, it's going to work. So they did it, and it worked. And so they collaborated. The brilliance of Led Zeppelin here is just shining. Let's just talk about Jimmy Page for a minute. The maestro orchestrating the musical landscape of this song. His genius guitar ideas manifested in delicate yet tense rhythm guitars during the verses, creating that dynamic interplay of light and shade that we love Zeppelin for. Then we treated to one of Jimmy Page's, if not, I think, his most extraordinary guitar solo. It's a masterclass that encapsulates the full spectrum of his musical prowess. within its confines. We're hearing like bends, we're hearing notes that are being bent and held to the point where they're gently fading rather than sustaining, like he's just giving it everything he's got. There's some breathtaking guitar runs, but what sets this solo apart, in my opinion, from every other solo that he has ever done is there's a massive emotional depth to it, and a sonic journey that transcends more than just technically. Like there's so much going on in what he's playing. I think he was feeling everything that was going on in that. Also, remember his daughter was involved in that car crash, so there would be things that are going on in his head, and he's putting that out in his guitar playing. Then you got the foundation of the rhythm section with Jimmy Page's rhythm guitars behind the solo that stand out as equally impressive, in my opinion. The staccato, the accent section, you guys know the part I'm talking about. That
machine gun drums.
That there is. Think about trying to rehearse that with a band that don't have chemistry. You spend a month trying to get that tight. These guys just knew each other so well. Yeah, there's like those more explosive drum fills from John Bonham. There's a galloping bass line courtesy of John Paul Jones. There's that vocal performance from Robert Plant. I was saying the song is elevated to a realm of musical wonder. As the song progresses, each member contributes to the sonic tapestry, I like to call it, leading to a guitar tour de force, as Jimmy Page would say it. He recorded that many guitars for this song. I believe at any one time there might be 6 guitars playing that have been tracked at once. So there's more than 6 guitars tracked as well. But in some of the bigger parts of the songs, there's 6 guitar tracks being played at one time, which is quite incredible because it all sounds like one guitar part, but there's a lot of weaving and stuff going on there. I could go on for hours about this song because it is probably my favorite Zeppelin song of all time. And listening to it this last week has really cemented that home to me, that this song, I would say if outer space people came or aliens came to Earth and they wanted to hear a Zeppelin song, I would normally say listen to Kashmir. But I'm going to say now listen to Achilles' Last Stand, because this is this is their masterpiece. And moving forward, as this album as aged people, Zeppelin fans have become a little bit more adapt to liking this album over some of the other albums because of that these songs grow on you, which is something that's quite unique about Zeppelin. You mentioned it, Andrew, in your intro. Songs like Zeppelin, they grow on you. They just keep piercing your skin into your soul, and they become timeless to you. So this is a masterpiece. I'm going to give it the highest score I've ever given a song, guys. It's a 100 billion trillion whatever out of 10.
100 billion trillion out of 10.
Whatever.
Well, again,
we're not talking about America's deficit, trade deficit.
Yes. Trade deficit. Oh dear.
This is not an economic program, folks.
It is now.
I hope I didn't bore you guys with that explanation and take up too much of your time, but
Got nothing left to say.
I think this song needed that. Sorry, guys.
Hey, Greg.
No, it's fine. We should say good morning to
Boomster Back.
Moto Mining, Boomster Black, and Greg Roberts Tune, and KXM Rock as well. Morning to you all. Thanks for dropping by. Fantastic to see you. So yes, can't go. There's not much more to be said of that. And Brad, how to go? Couple of things did strike me. Just to add in that clearly the guitar orchestration is the major thing, and Page obviously worked very hard at that. The one thing I sort of noticed straight off is that certainly in the beginning, but I think quite a lot of the way through, Bonham plays quite on the front of the beat in this track. He's not, not doing his usual kind of just slightly off, giving it that massive swing thing. This is a bit more rock, not quite the same thing, which I thought was quite interesting. I didn't when I was listening, I noticed. I was thinking that's not quite what Bonham does as his default position on the drums. It's not that, which I think that kind of just giving it that kind of pushing it along a bit more is with some extra drive, together with Mr. John Paul Jones's alembic 8-string bass as well. 8-string bass, getting new kit in. A couple of things about the music was inspired by flamenco and Moroccan traditions. The lyrics were inspired not only by travels, but also by some of the poetry Robert was reading at the time, which includes William Blake. As Albion remains sleeping now to rise again. Well, maybe is a reference to Blake's engraving The Dance of Albion, and there's some reference to the Atlas Mountains and things, which is sort of leading on from Kashmir and some similar sort of travelogues. But it's an amazing track, isn't it? And it kind of it builds and it goes, and it's the sense of dynamics is amazing. The sense of the space as well, but the way that Page puts those guitar parts together, all sorts of different sounds and things, amazing stuff, really completely amazing. And I like the fact that it fades in on them doing that arpeggiated chords, and it fades out doing it, so you could almost loop it together. So it just went on forever. So it fades out and then fades back in again, kind of thing, and you start all over again, kind of thing. Was very nice. So I mean, clearly it's 100 out of 10, and probably not a skip.
Well, and it's interesting you said about the drumming, because one thing that I did have in my notes that I thought I'd just leave out because I would go on forever is that push sort of
push, isn't it? Yeah.
Bottom's playing, especially towards the end of the song. You hear him doing that on the hi-hats, like really pushing that beat. But it is sitting back behind the beat, but it sounds like it's in front. It's anyway, it's magic. Yeah,
it's kind of, but it's just a bit more push than I normally associate with Bono if I'm thinking about about the drumming, even on, I mean, things like Kashmir and stuff like that. It just kind of, he knows exactly when it's like in the pocket or whatever it is. But here it seemed to be a bit more push to it, which was interesting. But 100 out of 10. Never a skip. One of their classics, of course. One of their classics. Andrew.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for the wonderful presentation, guys, on this opening track, and thank you, people in the chat, for your great comments. You new folks that have just joined us, please, can I ask you to hit the subscription button, and I'll subscribe back to your channel after the show. If you haven't already done that, we really appreciate your help if you can do that, and come back and join us weekly as we talk about great rock and roll albums. Brad's introduction's fantastic. There's a couple of points, obviously, that I've got to contribute to the discussion on this song. It's easily the powerhouse of the album. And the song dovetails, doesn't it, into the promise that they left us with Kashmir and In the Light from Physical Graffiti to my ears. You guys have already spoken about the hammer crashing rhythm. I just love that. I think it's fantastic, and it just gets better and better on the album. And it's reminiscent for me, guys, this drumming of Immigrant Song, So one of the great things about Bonham is that he can reinvent himself as a musician. And I think this is the point that Brad was saying before, after Simon gave his presentation. And I'm sure there's a couple of other tracks coming up that we're going to talk a little bit about Bonham pushing that beat that Brad described. Not very many drummers can do it, but clearly Bonzo is the guy that did it. Brad already mentioned, didn't he, the compositional variety of the different guitar tones on this track. It's phenomenal. We often say go and listen to it on a stereo. listen to it on your car stereo, but also go and put some headphones on too. This is definitely an album that you need to go and listen to the headphones as well, because you're going to miss a lot of those little arpeggio chords that the rock professor mentioned. That loopiness, that waves and undulations of the guitar can easily be lost in that booming stereo, Brad, that we love. So this is one of the great things. I would like to remind you folks to do that. That guitar melody that we've got on this album is a gift to our ears, Brad. And you've already mentioned that, so I'm just backing you up on that, bro. At 7:30, Page runs out of lyrics. He runs out of lyrics and he goes, sexually charged, as Page can do. Not very many guys can pull it off. And then it wasn't until later on, it would have been years later, folks, that I found out that he was on a wheelchair, because we didn't know this.
No.
We didn't know this in the early, when we were young fellas. I didn't anyway, and none of my friends knew that. So when we heard that, we went back and listened to this album, Brad, and was like, holy shit, really?
Yes.
Big news in the NME.
So phenomenal that the guy did this. And again, I've mentioned this a few times when we've discussed Led Zeppelin, but I just want to back up Led Zeppelin because he mentioned, Lord of the Rings, when he hears this song, and Lord of the Rings and Led Zeppelin, when I was a young boy going to school, dovetailed, so I've mentioned this before, you're reading this for English, and then you're listening to rock and roll that makes references to this, or they're providing movie soundtracks, Simon, to what you're reading. It's just phenomenal. And because of that, we all knew it was going to be a masterpiece, didn't we? When you first listened to this track, you knew it was going to be a masterpiece. What did the hero find, though? What did the hero find at the end of the song, Brad and Simon? We don't know. I reckon he found this song being a masterpiece anyway. I'm going to stick with that. Brad's score. Album's finished. Album's done.
Go home.
That's all you need to. It's all you need to listen to.
Yeah, that's it. Go home from the pub after that. Take, have your last beer and go.
And then they. Oh, there's 6 other tracks, Brad.
Yeah. Yes. Well,
Brad's score.
To back up, Andrew, what you were saying without summarising the time, there was no social media, there was no information on these records. Like you didn't really know what was going on, and that was the mystique side of Zeppelin, and I think that's what gave them, such an added advantage back then. A lot of bands, I think, had that added advantage of mystique and what's this band, what are they up to, where these days artists are expected to share everything on social media, including, what they're having for dinner and what they're eating for breakfast. It's ridiculous. Where these guys, everyone came up and had theories about Zeppelin because they knew nothing about them.
We knew there was a car accident.
Mystique.
We knew that. But we didn't know that Page was, basically invalided. We didn't know that. But, good point, bro.
Yeah.
Back in the olden days, for you young
good days. In the good days. Yeah. For Your Life, second track.
Right.
In the aftermath of that epic journey that was Achilles' Last Stand, For Your Life offers like a contrast. Yet I find it equally as compelling. Musically, there's a lot going on in this song. The calculated use of space is evident. I wrote here, there's enough space to steer the Titanic through it, yet it managed to sound dense. So there's a lot of space in this song, guys, and I love how the last song everything was full of guitars and and this song's got space. Jimmy Page introduces us on the first time on the album to him using a Stratocaster, which we're going to show a picture of a bit later, applying the tremolo bar to dive down and weave into that sort of nuanced intro. The drum beat, it's funky, laid back, creates a solid foundation. And John Paul Jones, the master of grooves, tightens the song's rhythm. There's so much punch in his bass line. I could sit there and listen to isolated tracks of just John Paul Jones playing. It's just incredible the way he plays. Can't say that about a lot of bass players, really. I'll be honest with you. But John Paul Jones is one of those guys I could sit there and listen to, as I did with the isolated tracks to John Bonham playing Achilles' Last Stand, and just mind blown. The exploration of different time signatures in this song adds a layer of complexity to the composition. It's showcasing Zeppelin's versatility. Despite Robert Plant's physical challenges, his vocals bring up a profound depth to the track. The seemingly lagging tempo that's masterfully executed sits perfectly in the pocket for the song. It's a testament to the band's collective precision. The guitar solo by Jimmy Page is reminiscent of Jeff Beck's stylings to me. Adds a touch of, virtuosity, cementing the For Your Life as a standout track, deserving, in my opinion, 10 out of 10. I loved the way they performed it at Celebration Day at the O2 in London as well for the first time. Simon.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Yeah, interesting the use of the Stratocaster, provided by former Byrds guitarist Gene Parsons. Yeah. So, yes, I mean it's much, as you said, it's much more getting into that typical Bonham beat, that swinging, just holding it back a bit, and just so that it swings so much. And that's as my admiration for John Bonham cannot be spoken about a lot on this show. And this is a great Bonham groove. He just can lay it down, I think, like nobody else. Really, it's kind of fantastic. It's got a kind of funkier feel to it. Definitely that Stratocaster brings out the funk in Jimmy Page kind of thing, and sort of a real 4/16 proper Page solo, bluesy, inventive, doing what Page does, amazing stuff. And as you said, use of the whammy bar, which is it's surprising. It's like, wait a minute, what is that? Page is actually going, which is amazing. And again, the pan guitars, and also the sort of pan guitar solos. You get the two guitars playing in unison together. So one pan left, one pan right. As Andrew said, it's worth listening to it on headphones. You get a real sense of those effects and things, and the things that Page uses to keep it interesting, keep it moving. That great second track. I'll give this 9.5 out of 10, but it's never a skip. Mr. Walton.
For Your Life. Wow, that syncopated beat that's going on hits you hard, but notice that relaxed groove that's going on here, and again, it's just a testament to what's going on with that rhythm section and the lyrics. The lyrics are fantastic. You said I was the only with my lemon in your hand. It's just fantastic.
Steady now.
Yeah. Goes back to that other song, Brad, that they did on the first album. Was it the first album or the second album, the Lemon song?
The Lemon song in the second. Yeah.
Second, Led Zeppelin 2. Yeah. I love the unhurried steadiness of the song, and it gives us that wonderful suspense that Led Zeppelin can only do. And you're waiting, aren't you? You're waiting because you're picking up on the lyrics. You know what's going on. There's a conversation there about sex and drugs by a rock and roll band. Yeah,
it's all in there.
I love it, Brad. I just think it's fantastic. But it's serious. It's a serious song. We're not joking about it. It's a serious song. It's fantastic. What about that tambourine, though, Brad and Simon?
Yeah. Unbelievable. And
the
tambourine,
What tambourine? I didn't know it was a tambourine. What
There's
tambourine?
on the hi-hat, isn't it? I'm
It's
not
on
sure.
those. Oh, hi.
Yeah, yeah,
He's used to put it.
But
Yeah.
John Paul Jones on this song too, Andrew. His bass playing is phenomenal.
yeah. Just the tambourine on the high. Yeah, it's got to be. It's just again phenomenal. Brad, I wanted to give this track, something less than a Brad score. So for me to do that, to give it something less than a Brad score, I can only give it 10 out of 10. I just think the track is a fantastic contrast to the opening track. It's wonderful. It's never a skip.
I love how the flow of this album. I love the first song into that song. It's just magic. Because what are you going to put after Achilles' Last Stand? Another ball tearing song? You can't.
No.
You have to contrast it. So you've just had your ears bashed like smashed lasagna for 10 minutes. So the next track is Royal Orleans. Royal Orleans, such a funk infused energy in this one. There's that sort of cohesive connection here between Bonham, Jones, and Page. I think even Robert Plant's mentioned this, that these three gentlemen were massive parts of the success of this band because of the chemistry of them. And
definitely,
there's beyond typical funk vibes here. There's an underground funk thing going on. The funkiness permeates the song, in my opinion. Robert Plant's vocals, they're exceeding greatness. It melds seamlessly with the band, the way he puts his vocals in here. The band's tight instrumentation, Bonham's distinctive kick snare pattern, like I've been saying in the first song and whatnot. That's what's injecting the funk here. Bonham is laying that funk down. I know he's big into Motown, big into swing, big into all these but I know he loved funk music, and Page's funky guitar lines, he and his solo exhibits like that dynamic prowess that he's got. I love the percussion. It's like hand drums or congas or something after the solo. It introduces a distinct texture. It enriches the sonic landscape. It's a 3-minute journey into the depths of funkadelic style music, done Zeppelin's way, in my opinion. Royal Orleans earns a commendable 9.5 out of 10 for me. It's a track that will never be skipped, ever. And who knows, maybe in a year or two it'll be a 10 out of 10 for me. But I had to rank it 9.5 because the other ones it's got to sit within my ranking. So 9.5 out of 10, gents, never a skip. Simon.
Lots of funny stuff going on in the chat. It's great. But so Royal Orleans. Apparently,
as John says, the chat is where it's at.
The chat is where it's at. Yes, indeed. Yes. It's I mean, apparently, Royal Orleans is written about an incident involving Jones at the Royal Orleans Hotel. About a song is about a guy who picks up a drag queen and discovers the next morning the person is a man, which is quite fun. It includes a reference to soul singer Barry White. There we are. If you're paying attention to the lyrics, there is a reference to him. I don't have much to add to what you said, Brad. I mean, it's great swinging shuffle from Bonham. Exactly what you'd expect from him. And there's into that funky riff as well. It's kind of again, and that funky thing sort of coming through. I don't know if Page is playing the Strat on this as well, but could well be. And again, use of stop as well. It's a nice stop at 2:12 that really just again that kind of just adds a dynamic, doesn't it? When you stop and start again, it adds a dynamic. Coming back in with the funky riff, and then it goes up a tone for the solo, doesn't it? It goes up a tone for the solo, and then goes back down again to go back into it again. It's great to ender to side one. 3 tracks. It's
funny.
yeah, 9 out of 10 for me. Never a skip. Great ending to a great side. Yeah, for sure. Andrew.
You guys, I can't add much to what you guys have already said. It's a good time groove, isn't it? And it's one of the great things about this band. You know, they can pull out songs and just have this great good time groove without too much going on. And, you know, I'm going to repeat myself a lot. The musical mastery of these guys is on display with sometimes some of the simple stuff. But what really gets me with this track, and again, I'm going to reiterate it, you know, go and listen to it on headphones and you can pick it up. I love the way that Bonham strikes those open hi-hats 3 times. Brad, you know, and the way that he can, by doing that, he can controls the beat. And I wish I was a drummer and I could understand why he's doing that. But it doesn't matter, Simon, because we're listening to it, so we're picking it up anyway. Maybe Rick Beato has got a video on why he's hitting that hi-hat 3 times. I don't know, Simon. But there's something going on there.
Because he can.
Yeah, because he can. Go and check that out. I just think it's phenomenal. And you guys know me. Sometimes I like just to focus on one thing, or one thing is always going to be in the back of my mind, Brad. And I kind of picked up on this recently, only a few years ago. That wonderful little thing that Bonham does. Probably one of my favourite drummers ever. Probably.
He's definitely my favourite drummer. Yeah.
Probably. Guys, please don't time me up for this, but I can only give this an 8 out of 10. I love this album so much. I'm going to stick true to my rankings. It's never a skip, and it's a great closer for side 1. And I think that's the point that we need to bear in mind that the Rock Professor said earlier. You know, this is back in the days where it's vinyls, so, you know, slotting in songs on an album was a really important thing, Simon, and I think they did this well. They did it well, Brad, by ending this album with Royal Orleans.
Yes.
Photo time?
The only way is vinyl. Yes, photo time.
Just give us 2 secs, all right? 2 secs. You guys have a quick chat.
No worries. Yeah, really interesting, and you know, moving Zeppelin into new areas, and obelisk.
Nobody's fault but mine. It's nobody's fault but mine.
Oh, stop that! We'll get demonetized.
It's John. It's John's fault.
John said D351. Honestly, couldn't. Good morning, Wayno. Nice to see you. Thank you from dropping in from Boston and giving a thumbs up before you go to bed. Sleep well. That's very nice of you to do that.
Thanks, Wayno.
Take care.
So these are in no particular order, these photos, folks. We've got a couple of quotes there as well. So we're gonna talk about them. So this is one of 3 or 4 montages that John ZD351 did for us, and this is the best one by far. Look at the smiles that we've got. I only picked it because of the smiles.
Of course.
Andrew, you look deep in thought in that picture, I must admit.
I'm contemplating, bro. Didn't I tell you, bro? I'm a mystic. I'm a natural mystic, brother. Right.
Really, jolly good. Oh dear.
So yeah, that's a photo. Probably just a little bit after the record. So it's time. It's close to time correct. I just wanted to get a. They were probably playing Song Remains the Same or something there, but you know, it's hard to tell. But Jonesy's playing. Looks like an 8-string bass there, but I can't tell because of the.
It is that alembic.
Sorry, what was that?
It is that alembic.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the 8-string though that he's playing. I don't think he played that live. I I think that's
Right.
definitely the 4-string one, though, bro.
Okay.
I could be wrong.
Yeah. So that's one of the internal sleeve covers pictures with the object. You know, that the album cover, in my opinion, is not one of their greatest. I've always loved their album covers, like Houses of the Holy and whatnot. But that's John Paul Jones with the 8-string there.
That's the 8-string, yeah. Can I just go back to the other one? Can I just go back? So if you notice that body shape compared to that one there,
Looks a bit diff.
Yeah, I think that's the 4-string one that he had.
Right. Okay.
But what a bass that would have been. Man, you know, they were highly sought after, those basses, bro. They were handmade.
Yes.
I bet they were. Yeah.
Also, a little fun fact for Achilles, he used that bass there, but he also used another bass and tracked another bass line as well, 2 bass lines.
Wow.
Yeah. That's Robert not long before the accident. Yeah. So he looked a lot happier there. That's John Paul Jones, obviously, with his Fender bass, jazz bass. You know, that's around that time frame, and he used that bass on this album as well.
Yep. One of his favourite basses, bro, isn't it?
And the
He
sound,
used that early on, didn't he? On the first 3 albums. I think that was pretty much the go-to bass, wasn't it?
I think it was like Page's number 1 Les Paul. That was his number 1 bass.
8 strings hadn't been invented by then, had it?
Yeah. So that's Blind Willie Johnson, and you know, who recorded Nobody's Fault But Mine. But Zeppelin, as Zeppelin do, you know, that was the source of inspiration for their version of Nobody's Fault But Mine. But I thought, you know, I'd show a picture of him because I thought, oh, there's that damn picture again.
Sorry.
That's Robert Plant around the time frame. I don't know if it's, I'd say it's obviously a little bit after or before the incident. Obviously, he's on his feet. So, but such a cool lead singer, yeah. Such a cool lead singer. I think he, you know, he just had it. You know, he had the X factor that everyone's trying to get as a singer. Everyone wanted to be Robert Plant in the, you know, after the 70s, I think, if you're a singer. The mighty John Bonham there. Yep, the maestro. That's Robert Plant and his wife Maureen, the one that had the fractured skull in the incident. So I just thought I'd show that obviously that time frame for Robert Plant was probably the most painful out of a lot of them. So John Paul Jones around that time frame as well. A bit of a promo pack there, promo sort of promotional via a lot different to the picture that John ZD351 has done. Jimmy Page there with his number 1 Les Paul that he used predominantly on this album as his main guitar. With John Paul Jones in the background there. There's a few alternative, you know, photos I think that were taken at the time for the album cover. Yeah.
Yeah. Was it Johnny Heartbreaker brings up a good point? Did you see this week that they've identified the picture on the front of Led Zeppelin 4?
Yes,
you
I
see
did
that?
see something
Identified
about
as
that.
a Victorian Wiltshire Thatcher. That's what it's a picture of.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's Jimmy doing promo for the record. He was the only one that did promo. Robert couldn't do promo because of his recovery.
Here's a couple of pics here of the Strat.
This is the Stratocaster.
There it is.
The placid lake blue color. I've always loved that Strat. Not just because it's Jimmy Page's one, but I just love the color. It's beautiful. Against the rosewood neck, it looks wonderful.
And there he is there, bending that tremolo bar.
Yeah. Beautiful.
We've got a couple
It's
of
amazing,
quotes
isn't
here.
it? It's taken 7 albums for Jimmy Page to use the whammy bar.
Well, I think, to be honest with you, a lot of that was influenced by Jeff Beck. I think that because he,
Yeah.
you know, about the
Yeah.
records that Jeff Beck was releasing at the time with a Stratocaster. So I'll read this. This is about the Strat he's using there. Jimmy Page acquired the 64 Fender Lake Placid Blue Stratocaster in April 75 from Sam Ash in New York City and used it at 75 Earls Court shows for no quarter and Over the Hills and Far Away. It was also used in 79 and 80 for In the Evening. In his studio, Page used the Fender Stratocaster in the Presence session, For Your Life, and Hot's On for Nowhere. Page continued to use the Stratocaster in the 80s. It's a 64 Fender Strat, which would be an L series, I believe, Lake Placid blue color.
And he used it with Firm, didn't he?
I think so, yeah.
Firm.
It's interesting that he used that. It's interesting that he used that on those songs live, because I think he must have broken a string, or because I think for a period of time there, he didn't remember using that Strat on No Quarter. He did. He goes, I didn't think I used it till he saw a picture of it, him using it on stage. Okay, so this one goes down to the masterpiece, Achilles' Last Stand. As far as the guitar orchestration goes, Achilles' Last Stand is really a tour de force. I put everything I could into it. Electrically, it took on. I'm having trouble reading it. I took it on as a whole orchestrated piece with all these different movements and interludes playing at counterpoints around the basic chord pattern. I used the double neck 12 string to open on the intro and outro chords. The Les Paul took on all other duties. I managed to vary the approach and texture each time the sections came around. It was really successful considering these overdubs were done in one night. The trip to Morocco, the trip to Morocco is part of the narrative of the song. Mighty Arms of Atlas is a reference to Atlas Mountain. I don't normally talk about Robert's lyrics because it's for him to do that, but I can't help it because I'm so proud of that song and the passion that Robert and I put into writing and performing it.
Brilliant.
So that's
and
from
Rock Professor.
Yeah.
Sorry, bro, I cut you off.
That's all right. Go, Andrew. You're all right.
And Rock Professor, we got one here for you to read out. Can you read this one, please? Because you were there.
Indeed, yes. As I was there, after our Earl's Court shows, Robert and I travelled through Morocco, then went to Montreux before meeting our families in Rhodes. I needed to go back to London for a few days, and then, unfortunately, Robert had his car accident. Fate throws the dice, so instead of going on tour that year, what we actually did was eventually head to Musicland Studios in Munich with the other members of the band to work on Presence. At this point, we didn't know whether we would be able to tour again, but what was clear was that Robert needed to recover fully before even thinking about making any further decisions. However, what we agreed is that we would channel this dark and lonely time into making an album and see what would happen. As it turned out, he had the courage and fortitude to come back. But while we were doing that album, we thought it might be our last. I see Achilles' Last Stand as a narrative, both musically and lyrically, of that time. Yes, indeed.
Thank you, Brad, for those picks and isolating those quotes. Have one of you guys got handy the copy of the Zoso book so that we can highlight that?
Yes. First, I wanted to highlight this one because one of those early pictures I got out of this book, Andrew. Which is a fantastic book.
It's a Bible.
I got this from Gary and Sandra Green, my son's grandparents, and I've got this one. Yeah, that one there.
That's the one.
So a lot of these just came out of here. This book is phenomenal. It's if you're a Zeppelin fan, you need to get your hands on this.
We've all got copies. Rock Professor, you got a copy? Yeah.
Right here, look, it's even got a bit of paper marking the
Right.
the picture of something as a over.
My one's signed.
Another one. Have you guys got this?
Who by?
You
Who
guys
by
got-
what? By
Me.
you? Yes.
Have you guys got this one?
No.
No, what's that?
It's a picture book. It's great. It's a collector one. So it's in like a. It rarely comes out, but I thought I would show it. It's compiled by Ross Halford.
Oh no, I haven't.
Halford,
But
yeah,
I've seen
the
reviews on it.
photographer.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. The pictures. I wish I could get some of these pictures in, posters or like framed like that. They're incredible. The detail is incredible. The way he's fixed the photos as well, just absolutely incredible.
Wow. Yeah, I've read. He puts out good books. That guy.
Yeah. He's
And,
a good
like
photographer,
I'll just
Ross Halford.
randomly pick a page here. There's some pretty like personal photos of Robert floating backwards, squeezing his lemon. Oh, I didn't say that.
That's John Bonham.
No, Rob Plant. It's Rob Plant. That he's got the goatee, the little what do you call it?
Blimey. Don't know anything like
There's
it.
just some great pictures in
That's Bonzo.
here. Fantastic. But
Yeah.
I was going to steal some pictures out of here. We all know Jimmy Page's number one Les Paul. Is wielding it there. That's the predominant guitar on this record. That's Stratocaster as well. And yeah, that's a great book. Thanks, gentlemen.
No problem. And we've got 44 comments in the quote in the chat since we started looking at the
Books.
pics. So as
Excellent.
John ZD351 reminds us, the chat is definitely where it's at.
What's that?
Well, we were looking at pics. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Rock Professor, for your contributions to the pics.
Yes.
Are we going to crack on with side 2?
We are.
Side 2.
We are,
Brad,
gentlemen. We
Brad's
are.
looking for something.
I lost my place in this book. Damn it. I was going to send something when one of the songs is coming up. Where is it? It's all right. I'll find it.
Which one are you looking through, Brad?
This
book you're looking for?
This book's so damn extensive. It's hard to remember where.
Which one are you looking
you
through?
find-
The Zoso book.
Simon, you've got the book there. While I do my rankings, can you find the section on presents for me? And I'll
What in Zoso?
yes, in the Zosso book. Yeah.
259. 259. is
I'll
what I'm
have
looking
you open it, and I'll.
I got
I'll
it.
start.
I got it here. Yeah.
All right, you open it up. So basically, the next song on side 2 to open is "Nobody's Fault But Mine." We did mention before that that originally was recorded by Blind Willie Johnson, and then obviously reinterpreted and recorded, by Zeppelin in '76 on their Presence album. So this is a sonic journey, and it continues, this album, the journey that continues on this album, where Led Zeppelin are layering such amazing texturing music going down. And you've got here Jimmy Page with the phase pedal on. I think it's a phase 90, script one, and it's got that sort of that intro that he plays. It's blues, basically. It's venturing into the realm of blues. You got that interplay between Robert's vocal melody, where he sings the guitar line. He's got that bluesy sort of atmospheric thing going on. But it's unmistakably Led Zeppelin as well. The drums and basses join forces. The song propels forward, and there's that unmistakable tearing Les Paul tone from Page takes the center stage in this song. The composition unfolds with remarkable lyrics. Robert Plant's vocal on this his delivery is nothing short of fantastic. John Paul Jones's bass playing throughout the track adds depth and sophistication, particularly during the intricate starts and stops. Remembering, guys, 3 weeks to rehearse and record this album. They did an amazing job because they're not just playing, songs from start to finish with no stops. There's a start, stops, time signature changes, everything. It's all, you name it, they're doing it. Where am I up to? The hum. You've got that amazing drumming that's going on there. You've got the drumming that leads into the harmonica solo. It's an incredible drum feel. Sets the stage for Robert Plant. He plays, I believe he's playing the solo, the harmonica solo, the harp solo. Despite Robert Plant's challenging recording conditions, recording all these songs, this whole album, he's in a wheelchair. Vocals towards the end of this song are nothing short of outstanding. Not a lot of singers can pull off what he does, and he's doing this from a wheelchair. The line where he sings "Monkey on my back," monkey on my back, that always reminds me that the guitar solo is coming at that section there, because I remember if I sat down and tried to play along with this on guitar, I used to forget where the bloody solo was, and then I remember monkey on my back, monkey on my back, that bit there. It builds anticipation for that guitar solo. And John Bonham, he's leading into the solos, a display of like musical prowess. His drumming is phenomenal. Jimmy Page's guitar solo, characterized by ample space between the notes in this one. I've heard a lot of old blues artists and bluesmen talk about, playing guitar is like you're talking while you're playing. So it's like you're discussing something, so you take a breath. And Jimmy Page is doing that with the guitar. He's playing lines and leaving space between the next phrase, the next phrase, the next phrase. All these elements make Nobody's Fault But Mine like I'm calling it a blues masterpiece. And probably, this album is probably some of the last blues stuff that they played, in my opinion. They sort of ventured away from it a little bit on their next record. All these elements makes it a blues masterpiece, and I'm giving it 100 out of 10 and never a skip. Simon.
Brad score.
Has to be.
Yeah. I think that, Brad, I think what you were referring to, I think, from the thing was that when he rang up Mick Jagger and said, "Can I have an extra day to in the studio?" He saw me later on. Mick asked him what he was doing there, so I asked him whether he'd like to have a listen. I had to think which track to play him. I chose Nobody's Fault But Mine because it went back to the blues, and he'd understand that. He listened to it, and he said, "Oh wow, he'd never heard anything like it. Nobody had ever phased an intro in such bulk guitar sound. It really came at you." He said, "So you were doing a single then?" I said, "No, we've done a whole album." He just said, "Oh," I think he was really surprised. So hopefully that was the story he wanted to tell. It's because it is a great story. Were you doing a single? Nah, 3 weeks, mate. We've recorded an album. I don't know what you're doing. Lovely
the Stones, mate, with Keith Richards.
3 weeks. It's not happening. He hasn't turned out till halfway through week 2. He's found the studio. It took me a whole week to find it, man. In the 70s, yes. Talk about oh dear, but I mean that intro is amazing, isn't it? I'm playing one guitar an octave higher than the others and things. Just we talk about it a lot on here, but his mastery of arrangement, and I think that what you were talking about, Brad, about having all these sections and he plays it. That's clearly from all that soloing, because we've talked on here before, haven't we, about how do you approach playing 35-minute, guitar piece, of any description whatsoever, and I'm still slightly mystified by that. I know quite a lot of some of it was worked out, but nevertheless, to work out 35 minutes of music and keep it under your head and sounds bewilderingly difficult to me. But as a thing, so I think this is bringing that sense of the sections and different sections and putting them all together into sharp focus. I think that great having the harmonica on the thing. First appearance of the harmonica on the album. Bit of a change of texture for this, and completely applicable in a pretty straightforward blues song, which is what this is. It's it's usual Zeppelin. Crediting it to themselves. I know it's on the album I just bought. It's still credited just to them. Bit cheeky, but won't be the first and not the last. So, and again, it's got a fantastic solo in it, and but that opening riff and when they, it's just brilliant. So it's 100 out of 10 for me. Never a skip. Fantastic opener to side 2, and one of their classics. I'm going one of their classics.
Yeah,
Andrew.
Yeah, what can I say after you guys? When you're 14 years old and you're hearing this for the first time, it's holy cow. It's just a phenomenal track, isn't it? That opening, the rock professors just sung it for you guys. The opening, it's a classic. It's a classic opening track for side 2. It's phenomenal. Medium tempo Led Zeppelin track, isn't it? With the boys laying the law down, and that's what you expect, and that's what you want from Led Zeppelin, and I'm glad that these guys celebrate the blues, and they're doing it even now when they're at the height of their power, Brad, when they didn't need to go and do these blues songs, but there's this urgency within them. It's like medicine, I think, for them to do this, Simon. I don't think they did this for any other reason than that, to go back and tap into this power that this kind of music has. And we've got the proof in it with the harp solos. So we know that there is power there in this music, in this form of music, because that harp solo is one of the best harp solos ever. And I'm sure if there was any mojo, if there was any John the Conqueror shit going on, it came through from this song, and these guys tapped into it. The bass is turned up too on this track. Have you guys noticed that? The bass is, and clearly, I think, Brad, this is where he's playing that Olympic, because you know how the Olympic bass has different knobs where you can change the frequency. So it was a guitar way ahead of its time. And so obviously John Paul Jones has been fiddling with that, Brad, to go and do that, I'm sure. You gave it a Brad score, but you don't call it a Brad score because you're modest, and that's fine, and that's why we love you, because you're just a humble man.
You've got a whole scoring system named after you that you never name. It who must not be named.
It's just a powerful track, but so much different, Simon, isn't it, from the opening track on side 1? And thank you, bro, for including the photo, because I had a photo too. So thank you for that, because it's important. And I just want to make a little thing here that on the Zoso show here on this channel, we don't get involved in the controversies about Led Zeppelin and songwriting. You can make comments if you want, but we don't waste time talking about it, because lots of people do it, lots of people have done it, and lots of people are going to continue to do it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, guys. The thing that really stood, and I'm glad you mentioned it, Andrew, the bass playing, the volume on it, but the bass playing is phenomenal on the song too. His playing is phenomenal on the whole album, but if you really listen to what he's playing with the drums, they were a rhythm section that any musician would want to play with. I'm surprised that they didn't do more sessions on the side of Led Zeppelin together, because I'm surprised that more bands and musicians didn't want that rhythm section playing with them, because they're phenomenal. Candy Store Rock. Candy Store Rock. I always love the title of this song, Candy Store Rock. Led Zeppelin takes a stylistic sort of detour with this song. Jimmy Page's guitar playing sort of reflecting that 50s sort of rockabilly style, Andrew, would you say? It's got like a bit of a rockabilly thing going on, drawing inspiration from my understanding of one of his heroes, Scotty Moore. Page uses a specific guitar, which is this Gibson, and I was going to get you to show it, Simon, but I've got it open now. So
you've got it open. 259. That's it. Yeah.
He goes, I use this somewhere. Yeah.
That's the Bible. That's the Holy Bible.
Use those guns. Come on, Brad. You can do it. Hold up
and
the
now,
book of.
Folks, notice the 3 pickups on there, not 2.
Yeah. Because
it's a beautiful looking
3
guitar.
is better than 2.
It's a beautiful looking guitar, and it's got a beautiful flame on it. But so it says, I use this Sunbird Switchmaster on Candy Store Rock to give a rockabilly sound in the vein of and as homage to Scotty Moore. Although not as good as him, it was fun doing that song, and it's a beautiful specimen of a guitar. So that's the guitar he used on this song. I think when I hear Robert Plant's vocal on this song, the "Oh baby baby" sort of reminds me of what's his name, the Big Bopper, and even
Big
Elvis.
Bopper.
What was his name? I can't think of it. Yeah,
the Big Bopper.
And also to some extent Elvis Presley, which I know they were fans of Elvis Presley. So
of course,
yeah. So it's got a little bit of that sort of going on there vocally, stylistically. I mean, not necessarily tonally, but stylistically. It creates like a now nostalgic yet refreshing sort of atmosphere in the song. John Bonham and John Paul Jones anchored this song with their outstanding contributions, maintaining a real solid foundation for Page as he employs that sort of Scotty Moorish sort of solo in the song. The entire band demonstrates a remarkable comfort in navigating this new musical territory with syncopated sections and tempo changes, adding a layer of complexity. The result is a track that stands out with playful energy and musical dexterity. With all of its intricacies, Candy Store Rock earns a solid 9 out of 10 for me, and never a skip. And I would put this on any Led Zeppelin playlist. If I was making one, I would definitely put it on.
Cool.
Simon.
Just talking, the Big Bopper's real name is Giles Perry Richardson Jr. I didn't know that.
And that is why you are the rock professor, because you look.
That's why I'm the rock professor, because I can look them up on Wikipedia. Yeah, see, Wikipedia makes me intelligent. Possibly.
It makes anyone intelligent.
Yeah. Clearly, it makes me look. So yeah, Candy Store. I mean, so it's interesting, isn't it? Where a lot of this album looks forward to new sounds, new guitar orchestras, and all those things. This is definitely a kind of look back to to the 50s. And if you think that 1955 was only 20 years before this, then it's it's not that much in the distant past. If you think about 20 years ago from today, 2003, it's gives it some kind of perspective. I think music has moved a lot less from 2003 to 2023 than it did from 1955 to 1975. But I think and clearly that's certainly Robert Plant's one of his inspirations is Elvis, and that 50 stuff. He's a big fan of that 50 stuff. He got listened to the Honey Dripper stuff that he did after Zeppelin to know that, and he's done other stuff. So clearly this is and I think that it's sort of this is a much lighter piece, isn't it? Much more sort of, bit
Yeah.
more fun, bit more kind of, bit less serious, and you've got to have some light with the shade, haven't you? Some light with the shade. It's I mean, I think it's important for that, and as you say, that kind of rockabilly style is definitely Scotty Moore stuff, and if you've got Led Zeppelin live at what's it called, How the West Was Won. I mean, he does a whole Scotty Moore bit, and then there's a whole lot of love. He does it in whatever, so he can definitely pull it off. Jimmy Page, fantastic player of that and understanding of that stuff. And just lots of fun, really. Basic rock and roll, lots of delay on it, lots of slap back echo on it and things. It's great fun. I gave this 8 out of 10, but never a skip, and a definite, really good contrast to Nobody's Fault But Mine, which is darker and more serious. Andrew.
Thanks, guys, and thank you, folks, in the chat for, again, your amazing content and humour and rankings. We appreciate it. Robert Plant is quite the candy connoisseur, isn't he?
Oh, how long did it take you to write that little gag?
He's quite if you go and listen to the lyrics to this song, it's like, holy cow. He's biting into things, and and
steady now. Yeah. It's a family show.
All right.
just
look, I love it. It's fantastic, isn't it? Brad and the Rock Professor have already mentioned the early rockabilly legacy that wasn't that old, that was so hugely influential for a lot of these English guys that we talk about on a regular basis. And go and do yourselves a favour, folks, if you haven't heard the Sun House collection of Elvis Presley. It's phenomenal.
Oh, the Sun Records, yeah.
The Sun Records rehearsals. There's about 40 songs there. It's just phenomenal, and that's where you get a lot of where this is coming from. I don't think a lot of people do enough shout-outs to that period in Elvis's history. But go and check it out. Clearly, Page and Plant did. And now, can I just offer something that might be a little bit contentious? I don't know. I don't know. But as an example, we knew and know that Eric Clapton played blues. Didn't play any rockabilly. Didn't play any of that early rock. Didn't play skiffle.
No.
We know that as an example, George Harrison, that's all he played. He played skiffle and rockabilly, and he didn't play blues until later on. But Jimmy Page, the remarkable thing about Jimmy Page is Jimmy Page picked up and played skiffle early on, and we all know that. But he was one of the first to go and discover and play blues. So he was playing both at the same time, while these other guys were playing one or the other.
Yeah, playing rock and roll as well. Yeah, absolutely going across all the genres. And do you think that's partly because of his session musician background? You playing on all sorts of tracks, all sorts of things.
Well, it's got to be because gotta be
style.
But he was doing both. While for example, Harrison was just playing basically rockabilly riffs in the Beatles, wasn't he?
Yeah.
100%
the early Beatles, yeah.
So one of the reasons why I think, again, Page is a genius. And I want to go back to the point that Brad made earlier on about the Beatles, studying and reading about the Beatles in 200 years' time. This band will definitely be one of those bands too that they'll be discussing and talking about in 200 years. Yes. Just give me 2 points to make before we kick on to the next song. I love the complex rhythms on this track. It's just fantastic. And, you know, the lyrics, Simon, the double entendre of the lyrics. We love it.
Double entendre.
And when you've got an idea of what that lemon is,
Well, it's
sometimes you just want to squeeze it.
It's a bit of a worry when everyone in the chat's talking about citrus, lemons, this and that. They don't really understand. Well, maybe they do what lemons are all, what Robert Plant's referring to as lemon. That's all I'm going to say.
9 out of 10. 9 out of 10, Brad. Never a skip.
Well, I agree. It's a great song. I've always really enjoyed Candy Store Rock. And I don't mind a bit of candy every now and again as well. All right. So the next track is Hot On For Nowhere. The journey through Led Zeppelin's Presence album reaches another pinnacle with Hot On For Nowhere. This song is a sonic amalgamation blending elements of funk, Motown, soul, into a spectacular rock creation, only the way Zeppelin can do it. You know, the transition between the different sections are executed with precision, highlighting the band's well-rehearsed artistry. This is something that I think, is not said enough about these guys. They obviously rehearsed with intention. They rehearsed songs with intention. They got the song done. They completed it. Think about Achilles' Last Stand. How many times did they go? That they would have to rehearse a lot. But the chemistry of the band makes this easy for them, I think. Robert Plant's vocals and lyrics are the standout feature on this song. Complemented, obviously, John Bonham's incredible drumming navigates the whole band through the diverse changes seamlessly. John Paul Jones is in perfect sync with Bonham. It provides a foundation for the song's dynamic shifts. Jimmy Page's guitar solo, another Jeff Beck style, in my opinion. I'm hearing reminiscent of Jeff Beck in there. Adds another layer of brilliance, showcasing his versatility once again. As the song progresses, the outro section, say starting at 3 minutes 34, for example, is a testament to Zeppelin's ability to craft an immersive musical experience. The intricate layers and sound and the cohesiveness interplay of each instrument makes Hot for Teacher a captivating conclusion to conclusion to this part of the album. And I'm calling T for One like the encore of the album, if I can. So I gave it 9 out of 10 and never a skip. Gentlemen. Simon.
Yeah, so yes, Hot On For Nowhere. Again, another one of those tracks which has that kind of rockabilly rock and roll feel to it, doesn't it? They could put two together kind of thing as a vibe. And great drumming again, great swinging drumming from Bonzo, doing what he does best. I like the bass playing as well because it's not too flashy. It just kind of sits in, beds the song in really well. And Page's riff over the top was great. Big echoey guitar solo, great, kind of, as you say, reminiscent of Jeff Beck kind of playing. Clearly there's been some influence there. And then you've got a really nice corner response guitar riff, first one guitar and then the other, doing it, swapping them back and forth, kind of thing, typical Page thing to do. Again, a kind of much more kind of bit more upbeat and musically, although Plant said the lyrics reflected not only his physically trapped situation at the time, but his general frustrations with Jimmy Page and their manager Peter Grant, whom Plant was convinced weren't sensitive to his point of view. Hence the line, "I've got friends who would give me all." However, he slurred the pronunciation of the F-bomb, hoping to dodge it on the radio. Didn't work. Nice. So it's I mean, it's a 9 out of 10. Never a skip. Another great song, And as I say, musically kind of leavened, a bit lighter than the first track, and interesting for the last track. Contrast to the last track as well. Andrew,
Second to last track on the album, isn't it?
Yep.
We're not going there. We're not doing it.
I didn't go there because I didn't think of it, but I'm glad you did, Andrew.
Yeah,
That's why you're the boss man.
Yeah.
Second to last track on the album. Interesting comment from Mikey. Hot Song for Nowhere is a personal favourite for Mikey on this LP. Page is simply brilliant on this track. Yes, 100%. And we'll talk about that. And obviously these two cats have spoken about why he is. Love the swing. Love that riff. It's fantastic. And he's given us a fun fact. Van Halen covered this on their early 76 bootlegs. And why not? If it's good enough for Van Halen to cover Brad, it's good enough for anybody else to cover. Look, it's a great song, isn't it? It's that funky monkey. It's got that, swing, funk kind of riff. I love it. That infectious groove. And it's a credit to Led Zeppelin, to that rhythm section, that they can do that. And how they can just write a song with a groove, Brad. A lot of bands can't do that, bro. Yeah, it's just remarkable that they can do that. And again, I'm glad that you guys mentioned that Page was going through his Jeff Beck phase, and he's allowed to.
Yeah,
he's allowed to go through his Jeff Beck.
They were best buddies almost, like they were. Yeah.
Yeah. So they would have had conversations about guitars, because Page knew that he was using, had been using a Telecaster. Page knew that he'd been using a Les Paul. So why are you using a Strat? Well, I'm doing it because of this, and I'm doing it because of that, and this. It has a trem for a starter. And Page never had a trem on his Telecaster. Never had a trem on his Les Paul.
Sacrilege. Yeah.
Sacrilege, indeed.
So one of the best trem systems on a guitar is going to be, the Stratocaster trem system. So, and he certainly used it as a tool, bro. It's just fantastic that he did that. Look, I love it. It's a great contrast in the middle of a side, preparing you for the last track on the album. I too have given this a 9 out of 10. It's never a skip. Just love the infectious groove. These guys can groove, man.
They can groove.
Simon, can you imagine these guys? Can you imagine Jones and Bonham in the recording studio at least half an hour before everybody else? Just doing what they do. Yeah, it's easy to imagine, that they just wouldn't have rocked up and just done that. They would have been in there before everyone. They clearly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll give you a little.
Go on,
Sorry,
Brett. Go on.
A little fun fact with that last song, guys. If you listen to at the end of Hot Song for Nowhere, if you listen to the drum fills, there's two that Bonzo kind of just messes up a little bit, right near the end of the song. If you go back and listen, but I think with the intent to get the record done in 3 weeks, and probably knowing, the way Bonzo was, he probably went, "No, I'm done. That's good enough. Let's go to the pub," or whatever. But sure. I think this is what I'm saying now. They rehearsed for 3 weeks. They rehearsed and recorded in a 3-week period. So that means there was no time to go back and fix things or redo another bed for it or whatever. No, that's it. They probably picked the best out of 3 takes, and that's that.
Brilliant. Love it.
Like they always did, didn't they? Like they all, the first album was done like that. The first album was done, really quickly. I don't think, I think Page recognized the benefits of, lay down all the basic tracks as a 3-piece. Absolutely,
Yeah.
In the room, play, count it off, do it. Then he would do the overdubs, but as you say, he'd only do 2 or 3 takes overdubs. Would work out what he's going to do. Bang them out.
they probably went for the vibe anyway. They probably thought it was good enough, and no one would really pick it up. I think the only reason I picked it up is because over the years I've gone back and gone, "What's that?" It's like a tiny little slurry thing, like he's messed. There's two
Yeah.
drums.
Ah.
Question,
Yeah.
yeah. Go and have a
Yeah.
listen intently. Have a good listen. But let's just say a Bonzo or a John Bonham sort of little mess up is nothing compared to others. So
No, that's right, and he never worried about that, did he, Paige? It was like
no,
if the groove, the feel is right, then
yeah,
it's staying. If there's a little mistake, I mean, I'm sure he did some, odd drop-ins here and there for the, on his
yeah,
guitar stuff, possibly, but only if it was like, a real clang, but the rest of it was great. But remember, these are the days of tape. You had to drop yourself in, play over the top of what you'd already recorded a bit before and a bit after to to get it right. But
well,
I'm sure
my son has picked up some little mistakes in Beatles music too. There's one in "Please Please Me." Go
yeah,
and listen to the third verse when they go,
yeah.
"Last night I said these words to my girl. I know you never even try, girl." One person says "I," and then the other one goes, "I know you. I know you never even. You know you ever." And so they say the wrong word.
Oh, really? Yeah,
Kind
you
of
see.
mess up in the third verse. Anyway, but just off topic.
Mm.
But yeah, my
Well,
son
no, it's
picked.
it's
I've been
interesting
listening
that.
to that song, forever, half my life or more, and my son picked it up like within the first few listens. Anyway, we come to what I call the encore of the album. T for One, the closing track on Presence, and wowzers!
Interesting.
What a amazing song! The song is a slow blues ballad, captures the sense of loneliness and longing. Um, It's marked by those soulful vocals from Robert Plant and expressive guitar work from Jimmy Page. The lyrics can convey a feeling of solitude and heartache, possibly reflecting on emotional strain the band experienced during the recording process, particularly obviously due to Robert's car crash accident and the separation from his family. Um, the musicality of T for One is characterized by a slow and moody blues arrangement. Jimmy Page's guitar work is the center of the song and emotional impact. The track opens with that bluesy guitar riff that sets the melancholic tone. Page's expressive and emotive guitar playing throughout the song adds depth and intensity. The use of dynamics with the music building and subsiding contributes to the overall emotional journey of the song. John Paul Jones and John Bonham are integral in this song and play an amazingly heavy part dynamically throughout the song, lifting and taking the song. It's amazing to hear how little John Bonham actually plays on this song because that's all it needs. And that was what made John Bonham a superior drummer over any other drummer at the time, in my opinion. He was always about the song, not about what I could play. Page's guitar solo in T for One is particularly noteworthy. It's one of my favorite solos. It's a masterclass in blues phrasing and emotion. The bends, the vibrato, his playing conveys like a deep sense of sorrow. The solo captures that essence of blues guitar. It showcases his ability to convey raw emotion through his instrument. And that's the easiest way I can put it. He's just putting everything that's inside of him into his instrument and it's outpouring. It really hits the spot of where they were going emotionally at this point in their career. I see comparisons to Since I've Been Loving You in this track. As the song progresses, the interplay between Robert Plant's vocal and Page's guitar creates that sort of emotional, atmospheric sort of feel. The slow tempo and the bluesy guitar licks contribute to the overall blues feel of the actual track, making T for One, you know, a standout track on the album for me. It emotionally resonates with me. I'm sure it does with everyone else here. I have to give it 100 out of 10 and never a skip. It's a very underrated track in their catalog. I've heard Joe Bonamassa's done a version of it that's phenomenal, that's got Jason Bonham on it. I suggest you check that out at some point, but I still keep going back to this one as, you know, one of the very key, important blues songs that they did in their career. Simon.
For sure, yeah. It's interesting. It definitely harks back to Since I've Been Loving You, isn't it? And an attempt to update that as a slow blues thing. Apparently, lead singer Robert Plant wrote the lyrics to this slow, reflective blues number about the loneliness he felt being constantly on the road. He found himself in a New York hotel drinking tea for one when he penned the words. One reason the band stayed out of England so often to tour was to avoid the taxes. According to Jimmy Page, Tea for One is similar in mood to the 1970 Zeppelin live favourite Since I've Been Loving You. He explained in a 77 Trouser Press interview, the chordal structure is similar, a minor blues, C minor blues. We just wanted to get a really laid back blues feeling without blowing out on it all. We did 2 takes in the end, one with a guitar solo and one without. Interesting. I ended up sitting there thinking, I've got this guitar solo to do, because there have been blues guitar solos since Eric Clapton on 5 Live Yardbirds, and everyone's done a good one. I was really a bit frightened of it. I thought, what's to be done? I don't want to blast out the solo like a locomotive or something, because that wasn't conducive to the vibe of the rest of the track. I was extremely aware that you had to do something different than just some B.B. King licks as well. So I think he succeeded in playing something very different to those two extremes. The thing I'll tell you about is it's the only song on the album which is in 6/8 time. It's in that kind of slow waltz time, not in 4/4. It has all the elements, doesn't it? Of I think it's funny, isn't it? It has a slightly different, more melancholic feel to it than Since I've Been Loving You. I think Since I've Been Loving You is a bit more youthful, whereas this is a bit more world weary, if that's possible. They're both blues songs, but yeah, when Plant sings "Slip Into Days" and stuff, and that's echoed by the guitar, you kind of feel the weight of it, of his of his unhappiness, and in a way that I don't think you quite do in Since I've Been Loving You. And Since I've Been Loving You is the great masterpiece, one of the great Led Zeppelin masterpieces. That's so just amazing, and astonishing. So I see that that it's a bit different to that. I love the sound of loud and quiet and dynamics in the solo, and that very big spacey guitar sound as well. At 5:45, the start used. Beautifully done. 2 guitars, pan left and right, playing complementary parts again. Introducing that kind of, just at equal levels, but playing off against each other, keeping the interest going, keeping it dynamic, keeping it interesting. It's 100 out of 10 from me. Never a skip. It's a fantastic ender to the album, atmospheric and emotional and bluesy, and you couldn't ask for better or more. Andrew.
One of the great things about doing this show is going on after you guys and talking about songs after you guys have mentioned your contributions. It's a pleasure, and obviously, a pleasure watching and reading everybody else's comments too. Clearly being enthused and loving the same kind of albums that we love too, and that's great. I want to do a special shout out, guys, to this channel here. I've just put a link in there to this guy here, who's got a channel dedicated to Led Zeppelin stuff. Go and check him out. He's got a show coming up. He's had a look at what we do here. Go and check him out and tell him that the 5150 show sent you over there, please. We might get him as a guest over here on a show with us.
That'd be good.
It's really good, isn't it? It's really good. He does really good documentaries. I watched the President's one, 2 of them.
Yeah. He's not bad,
really
and he's a super fan too. But like us,
Yeah.
just an ordinary guy,
Yeah, that's great.
doing stuff. So back to the song. It's drenched in sadness, anguish, and dark thoughts. I love it. I love it. If it's got those ingredients, why wouldn't you love it? Dark thoughts. Seriously though, Brad, I love the guitar tone
it's beautiful
on this track. Go and listen to it, Simon, on your headphones, and the balance on the stereo between the left hand and the right hand is just fantastic. You can hear on your left hand, Brad, you can hear the distortion, you can hear the speaker, the cone. That's I can.
Yeah,
I'm deaf. I love that. And the Rock Professor also mentioned, in his discussion on this and a couple of other previous tracks too, that delicate arpeggio notes and chords that he does, and those single notes, that Page can do, Brad, on a track. He doesn't have to always wind out and do all this crazy flourishing stuff. He doesn't have to,
No.
He can just do this delicate, gentle stuff.
Yes.
I love it. I love that overdriven sound. That first solo, wow. Guys, when I was a young guy, I used to skip this song. Because when I was a young guy, because I wanted to listen to the rockers. Even though I had a bit of an understanding of what blues was back then, I wasn't fully aware and appreciative of what it was. But in my, when I was about 18 or 19, Brad, thank God, Brad, I appreciated it for what it was. I could see the power in the song. And again, the Rock Professor talks about this, the contrast being so important.
Yeah.
Brad Tilinsky's book that came out in 2002 with the interview with Jimmy Page. He talks about light and shade, and we get that, don't we?
Definitely.
Page outdoes himself as a soloist on this track.
Yes.
Brad, I opened up this album with the Brad score. I'm closing this album with the Brad score. So glad you picked this. I know that the three of us had discussed picking this 3 or 4 times in the past. We've discussed this.
Yes.
I know it has been on the list for a while, but so's 20,000 other albums, folks.
Yeah.
We'll get around it. We'll get around to them. but I'm glad you picked this because it's a phenomenal album.
Yeah.
No pressure on what we do here, but we've done a few Zoso shows that have had a lot of views, that have gained a little bit of momentum. So, we're all family and friends here. It'll be interesting to see what kind of momentum this show gets over the next couple of weeks, bro.
Yeah, 100%. Andrew, I just wanted to elaborate a little bit about the guitar tone and that. Do you pick up tone-wise and playing-wise a little bit of Peter Green at times?
Yeah. So I'm glad that so it goes back to that single note stuff that Green specialized in. Just letting the note do the work.
Yes.
Clearly, he's playing as Les Paul on this.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Clearly, and when you hear it, you go, yeah, this. And I think you can only get that on a Les Paul. That space between the notes. Sorry, Strat players.
Yeah. No, well, Strats have a place in my heart, and so do Les Pauls. So, they are what they are. Strats, you can do certain things on a Strat that you just can't do on any other guitar as well. But for example, that Les Paul tone, I think the meat and potatoes and the basic tracking of this album, Plant used his number one Les Paul. That was a given.
That'll be the one. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
And I forgot to put. I didn't see an email that Brad had sent to me with the number one picks of
that's
the
all right,
Les
mate.
Paul folks. So
we saw plenty of and there was a few pictures there with him playing the number one, so that's all right. It's all good.
But you guys will be familiar with the number one guitar anyway. So
yes,
that's it, gentlemen, and it's wonderful to hear you guys talk about this album, because I'm going to go back and listen to it now with some slightly different opinions, which are not opinions, but your rankings. So.
Bro, can I just do, before you go and do a shout out to everybody, can I just do a special shout out to Mikey Mojo? He's been with us here for a while. I know it's late where he is.
Yeah. Yes. Thanks, Mikey.
Very good friend of the channel. We love you, bro, and to have you here. I know that you pop in on some shows and have to go and do some stuff, but Brad's going to do a shout out to all you fine people in the chat. But I just want to do a special shout out to you, Mikey. Thank you for helping us, Mikey. Along with a lot of people, has been instrumental in sharing our channel.
Sharing and caring. He's a lovely guy, and we love you on the channel here, mate. So thanks. Thank you so much. All right. So in the chat, we had Gretsch Zeppelin. Thank you, Gretsch Zeppelin, for joining us. Ellen
what
Toll,
a name.
my mother,
Gretsch Zeppelin.
Ranking the Zeppelin track. She probably got her ears deafened for many years listening to Zeppelin. Probably voluntary or involuntary, it was going to happen. Yes, it was going to happen. Holly Lewis, thank you for joining us. There's some wonderful comments there. John ZD351, the cheeky rascal in the chat, and thanks for putting my face on a woman's body, mate. I never thought I'd see the day. I never thought I would see the day, right? And that's
only a matter of time.
John, that's the
bro. Okay, there is one consolation with that. You look hot.
No, well, I couldn't imagine wearing a dress, mate. So I'm too manly for that. But thanks, John. I appreciate it, but never again, all right? Never again. Please.
Oh, dear.
All right. So, Mikey Mojo, thank you for joining us again. Like we said, Johnny Heartbreaker. We had Johnny Heartbreaker there. We have got, there's a fair few people here I'm getting to. And like Andrew said before, everyone, if you're new to the channel and you're just watching this for the first time, please hit the subscribe button. And guys in the chat there, give us a thumbs up if you haven't done so already. It all helps. We've got Motto Mining there. Some bloke called Simon Williams. He's flooding the chat this week.
Spamming the chat.
He's spamming a lot. We've got Boomster Block. I hope I'm having trouble pronouncing that. Boomster Block. Is that how you pronounce that, gents?
Just Boomster, bro.
Boomster Black.
Boomster
Black. Yeah.
Boomster. So KMX Brock, I saw you pop in there. Thank you for joining us. Greg Roberts Tune. We have got
Jonas Halberg as well.
Jonas Halberg. I knew there was
nice to see you.
couple there. There's a lot of lemon talking in this chat, and I'm scrolling.
Holly Lewis, you're to blame for this.
We had Wayno drop in and chat for a little bit there, so thank you for joining us.
Cool.
And a little bit more lemon talk going on there. Lemon. Jeez, mate. We had Renus Pinkle join us talking about lemons. Renus Pinkle. I'm not even I don't know how you come up with that name, mate. That's unbelievable.
Spoonerisms.
I'm drawing near the end of the chat. If I've scrolled past your name, I do apologise, and thank you for joining us. I think I've covered everyone that joined us in the chat there. This is one of the longest chats we've ever had, I think, guys.
Right.
Thank you, Gretch.
Don't go away, folks, because this is what Eddie Van Halen says after when you guys have watched the 5150 show.
Wah, wah. It'll drive you nuts.
How did he know?
Wah, wah. It'll drive you nuts.
Oh dear.
Oh, goodness. I wonder who's
Drives you
talking
nuts.
about that. Yeah, I think he's talking about Andrew there, Simon.
He definitely is talking about Andrew.
Led
Anyway,
Zeppelin
boys.
rules.
Yes,
Squeeze
they
my
do.
lemon till the juice runs down my leg.
Yes. Well, let's keep it a family show, gents.
You know, it's a great pickup line. You want to see my lemon?
No.
It's like
We'll
what
get
the
banned.
fuck are you talking
We'll
about?
definitely-
What's
we'll
that?
definitely
no,
get
no,
banned.
I don't want to see any lemons.
No lemons.
Oh, okay. It's when you get one that says, yeah, and I'm going to squeeze it too. That's
Oh, God.
Oh,
Guys,
dear.
I tell you, every time there's this, I made a lawn on Saturday, one of my customers, and every time I go there, they've got a lemon tree, and the lemons fall onto the ground, and I mow over them. And
I hope you make lemonade.
every time, because I haven't got time to pick them up, Simon, so I just mow over the bastards. Yeah, there's too many, and they're all rotting and stuff like that. But every time I run over it, I hear the lemon song riff.
Mowing over your lemon. Things you don't want to do. Mow over your lemon.
Actually, lemon juice is squeezing all over my leg from the lemons that I mowed over.
Thank you. Oh dear.
It's on the list, Jonas. They're on the list.
Yes.
Anyway,
Come on and do it with us, Jonas. That would be fun.
Yeah, if you want to.
Yeah.
Rock
No,
Professor's
but,
got the pick for next week, folks. So if he's not going to tell us now, you'll have to at least hit the subscribe button, hit the
Well.
notification button so that you can find out what we're going to be ranking. Unless he's going to tell us now.
No, I'm not going to tell you now.
No,
I'm going to hold
okay.
off. I'm going to hold
All right.
off. I just
Hit the notification button if you want to find out. If you don't do
Yeah.
it that way, if you want to find out
Oh, yeah.
how to know what the album is, there they are there. Follow Brad on Brad Cook Music.
Anytime, John. Anytime.
And Simon at Simon Williams 33 on Instagram. And if you jump over there, you'll find me on one of their links as well. That's another way to find out what album we're going to be doing. We out of here?
Yes.
that's it.
Yes,
guys.
we are. 2 hours and 17. That's quite enough of this nonsense. Take care, everyone. See you next week. Take care. Have a good week. Take it away, Eric, the orchestra leader.
Wah. Wah, wah. It'll drive you nuts.
We're still live. We know what you're doing.
You know what you're doing, Andrew?
Yeah.